Leaders in Internet media and the American-made movement. You're listening to Internet Radio America.
Coming to you live from the Mendocino Forest in Northern California. Parrots, People, and Pets. Your hosts this evening are Michael and Mandee N. We would love to welcome the entire world all the way around the globe to our show. Sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen around the world. Welcome to Parrots, People, and Pets. Be sure to catch my friend Trace, who hosts Pets Rescue, etc., airing Wednesday evenings at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, also here on InternetRadioAmerica.com. We have a couple of really special, really good guests tonight. That was good, huh? I almost sung English. Now you know why. Anyway, we're looking forward to sharing information with you regarding these two beautiful, beautiful, awesome people that we're going to have on our show here very quickly. And once again, I want to simply thank you to all of you that have taken the time to tune in, to learn, and to share with us so that we can all learn together of what we're about to embark on, and that is to have a better world for our pets, a better world for ourselves. I also, while I've got a country minute here, I also want to plug our new show, Global Therapy, which will be coming on right after this. So you'll probably have maybe 2 or 3 minutes to run into the kitchen, make some more popcorn, fill up the cups with Pepsi, kick back, sit on the couch, put your laptop on top of you. If you don't have that luxury, then find a comfortable pillow, put it on your chair, and sit back, because we're going to have some awesome, awesome people on Global Therapy tonight as well, too, from all around the world. So we're looking forward to our very first guest here that will be calling in shortly. And Mandee, take it away.
Hi, guys. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We have a couple guests on the show tonight, one of which is Stephanie Mueller, our first caller. She rehabilitates parrots and finds them good homes. She is an astounding artist and a crafts maker. We are also going to be talking about her artwork and her willingness to donate a percentage of her sales to the Military Macaw Conservation Project that's in Mexico. I also invited Cheryl Lang to come on the show as our second guest. We had her on the show for only about 10 minutes last week to answer questions concerning dogs. I had a lot more questions for her, and so hopefully we will continue that interview around 1:30. And if you have any questions for either of our guests while they're on the show, please feel free to call in. Let me tell you a little bit about Stephanie Mueller. Our first guest takes in unwanted birds and rehabilitates them so that they can go into good homes. She has her own website where she sells parrot toys and even her own original artwork. She makes her toys from hand in her own home, and she creates works of art that feature pretty much any kind of parrot you can imagine, and she even does custom work for people's pets and things of that nature. Her website address is www.laborofloveparrottoys.com, and she also has a Facebook page. Just look up in the search box Labor of Love Parrot Toys with spaces in between. She does some really amazing work. I believe she does all of her work with watercolor. Stephanie, are you on the line?
Yep, I'm here.
Hi, Stephanie. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I was kind of talking about the toys that you make, which are truly unique. They are very colorful. You use a lot of wood, too, which is what makes a toy really last, because that's what takes a bird the most amount of time to destroy.
Uh-huh.
And so what other kinds of materials do you use other than wood?
Well, I like to add a different amount of textures, because I've really learned with having a larger flock that every bird's different. And I was having a problem with buying toys, and I felt like I was wasting my money because the birds weren't using them. So it was very, you see a lot of the factory standards. So with my products, I've tried to include things that my birds gravitated towards, and I've had a lot of good success with customers because of it. I like to use a lot of papers. I like to use natural ropes. I like to use different sizes and different shapes of wood, not necessarily one size. So I'm really big on textures. Anything I see and find that's bird safe that could provide texture, I'm all for it.
And do you dye the wood in these toys by yourself?
There are some products that I do order already made. The wood, me and my husband actually do prepare it ourselves. And we use untreated, different types of wood, natural woods, untreated. And, that's why we picked the name Labor of Love. It really is a labor of love. It's very meticulous to cut as many blocks as we do and drill the holes and sand them and formulate colorations and color schemes. And, it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun, too.
Yeah. I've seen a lot of your toys, and they're really neat. You make a lot of large toys for the larger macaws that look like it might take them longer than a few days to destroy.
I sure hope so.
I've got a quick question here. You mentioned a number of different types of natural woods that you use for your toys. Some of the basically that might not be able to afford to buy your beautiful toys at this time, are there particular types of woods that you might want to mention to them that they might be able to seek out and be able to make their own toys for their birds as well that are safe and safe?
Honestly, we look for anything we can access as long as it's natural and it's untreated. And you could go, there's several sites online where you can find bird-safe wood and woods that, know the difference between toxic and safe woods. But I like to stick to my pine. We have a lot of mesquite trees in Arizona. Those are fabulous for making toys. So when we trim those, we treat those and clean those. It just really depends. It depends on what's available in most places, but really, I have the best luck with untreated pine, to be honest with you.
Oh, okay, interesting. Because the main reason that I asked you that is because, as you know, we all have a lot of different types of trees on this planet. Like redwood, for instance, is poisonous. Cedar, for instance, is poisonous. But mesquite, I understand also that you live in Gilbert, Arizona.
I live in Mesa, right next to Gilbert there.
Oh, my God. I used to go, when I was a kid, I lived out near Williams Air Force Base, which is now part of the university. And I used to go once a year to Gilbert, and they used to have a parade there. Ride in on horseback and things of that nature. I did that as a child. Are they still doing that?
You know what? I have no idea. I've only been out here for a year.
Oh, okay. Anyway, Mandee, go ahead. Stephanie, thank you. Please, Mandee.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, Stephanie, you're willing to donate a percentage of your toy sales to the Military Macaw Conservation Project in Mexico. For those of you that don't know, the military macaws are an endangered species, sadly, and this conservation project helps them to increase the number of military macaws in the wild. We don't want these guys to go extinct. We have a group on Facebook called the Military Macaw Owners, and we have a few things going on every once in a while to help raise funds for this group. And military macaws are extremely close to my heart, and I think what you're doing is really honorable. So tell us about what you're doing right now to raise funds for your artwork. What kind of percentage are you willing to give, things like that?
Well, right now I'm offering a 10% of every single sale, which means no matter what you buy from Labor of Love, Parrot Toys, and more, 10% of that sale goes to the Military Macaw Project in Mexico.
Oh, that's great. And I want everyone that's listening to know that the website, if you're interested for the Military Macaw Conservation Project in Mexico, is www.macawforever.org. You can read all about what they're doing to help the military macaws on their website, and there's also a link to their Facebook page on there. They also sell beautiful T-shirts. If you're interested, you can send them a message. I think they have pictures on their page. I'm not sure. If you want to simply donate to them, you can click on their Spanish link at the top of the macawforever.org page, and you'll see a PayPal donation link. So, Stephanie, I wanted to talk a bit about your rehabilitating birds. Tell us about your recent plight with Rico, the military macaw, and the scarlet macaw.
Actually, Rico just came to me from a home. He is 40 years old. He was owned by a blind woman, and a very nice person with good intentions, but, bit off a little more than they could chew, brought Rico to me.
Right.
He's completely bald. He was in a cage maybe appropriate for a conure. It was a very, very small cage. Probably more than likely his element and some other things caused him to, pick himself and have some behavioral issues. His main behavioral issue was excessive screaming. I think he's got some abandonment issues. I actually brought him here looking to place him, and it turned out that he ended up being a part of our family. There was no doubt in our mind that he was going to stay with us. I never expected it, but, that's always how it happens. Also, the other macaw that I recently rehabilitated was actually a blue and gold, not a scarlet.
Okay.
But her name is Stella, and she came to me. An owner of a pet store called me, and she had a bird that had been dropped off at her store, whose nails were so overgrown that they were wrapped around her hands like bracelets. The feet were so curled from metabolic bone disease and arthritis that she couldn't reach for food, so she had become anemic, and she was literally starving herself to death. She was absolutely filthy, and when I saw the bird, I knew that, this couldn't be good. I immediately clipped her nails to release her feet, and she was able to spread her toes again, but you could definitely tell her feet were extremely withered. I shared her journey in several different parrot groups on Facebook, and many people fell in love with Stella. And she actually, ended up making a huge turnaround. What looked like it was impossible turned into a really good, happy ending. I did a lot of work with her with red palm oil, changing her diet. The vet came in, and she had a good once-over on her. She had a beak deformity, so we took her beak down. And, by the time she left, I was able to get her to step up, which was, you couldn't even touch this bird when I first got her in. She would just fall and scream and convulse, and it was just really sad. So by the end, I was able to pick her up. I named her Stella. She did not have a name when I got her, and she actually says her name now, which I think is really neat. Yeah, and a friend of mine that I've known for about a year now, she actually stepped up and asked if she could have Stella, and she offered to pay some of Stella's vet bills, which I thought was extremely admirable. And this lady has an amazing way with macaws. I can't even explain it. She only has one of her own, but Stella's doing phenomenal there. She bought her a whole special needs setup. I mean, it just really was meant to be, and I'm just really happy I got to help her get where she's going.
Yeah. And I've heard that when a bird has had their nails untrimmed for so long, is it the quip it's called? The line of blood that runs through their nails actually grows longer and longer, and it gets harder and harder to trim them because it's grown so long.
Absolutely.
Like a little bit at a time.
Absolutely. I tend to see it more with cockatoos. And I've noticed also with the thicker the nail, the more the quip grows.
Right.
I was expecting some bleeding when I took her nails down, and believe it or not, there was no blood, and I think it's because of the metabolic bone disease.
Oh.
Her nails, literally, it wasn't even a struggle to snap them off. They just popped right off once I took the clippers out. I mean, it was so effortless that I think it was basically her lacking the nutrition.
Right.
Now, had that nail had a quick in it, I think it probably would have been even worse for her and even more painful for her.
Right. When we got Bugla, her nails were so long, and as soon as we got her home, I trimmed her nails, and I just took the tiniest bit off, and they just started bleeding profusely. So, I mean, every few weeks I'll try and take a little bit more off, but they're atrocious. They are so long, and they're so sharp, but there's nothing really I can do about it.
Well, it's pretty common, like when I'm rehabilitating an animal, and I get them out of a situation. Most often or not, they don't have toys, so they're not grinding their beaks down like they're supposed to. And their nails are almost always overgrown. So I do know how to groom. And that is something that I do with my own birds. I think it's a lot less traumatic. I was trained by a professional, however, but, I still have a good relationship with the birds after, and a lot of them know I'm just trying to help them. Right. So it's not so much of a fight. I do my behavioral rehab and physical rehabilitation. I started it 5 years ago, and I had no intention of getting into this. I kind of just walked into it, to be honest with you. 5 years ago, when I was in Minnesota, I got a bird on an impulse from a pet store, and I had no idea 5 years ago what that meant, and that there were bird rescues, and that there were birds that needed homes. I had absolutely no idea.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of bird people out in that area, and people were just like, oh, if you don't want the bird, give it to her. She has the bird, she'll take it, and knowing me, I can't say no, but at the same time, I'm like, well, these birds did not ask to be my pets, so I owe it to them to do everything possible to meet the needs of these animals. So, it's been a learn from experience. I'm definitely not a professional behaviorist or a veterinarian, but I'm an extremely passionate avian enthusiast. And, I've learned from veterinarians, I've learned from behaviorists in the community and experienced handlers and books and journals and just so much more. I mean, I rely on you, on everybody else, because none of us can know it all. There's no way. It's such a broad horizon, and there's so much to learn, and you never stop learning when it comes to parrots.
Right.
So it's really important that we keep each other educated and try not to, it's hard because we're all really passionate not to argue about it, but, at the same time, stay true to your values and standards. Mine are basically, I feel that too many birds are rehomed 8 to 20 times in a lifetime, and we have to ask ourselves, why is that, and what can we do about it? The rescues are full, and obviously we all know that when there's too many birds in one area, they are not getting everything they need. So the education is so badly needed, and you shouldn't have to pay an arm and a leg to get what you need to make it work for your parrot. And I speak to groups about just basic behavioral rehabilitation and how it's not impossible for us as owners to do this instead of just give up on our parrots.
Right.
So, my message is, if I can do it, so can you, because I started from absolutely nothing, completely ignorant, and chose to educate myself and I will continue to educate myself.
Right.
So,
that's our whole purpose of the show, is to try and stop rehoming animals, especially parrots that get bounced around.
Absolutely.
Right. We're going to talk a little bit more about you speak for parrot clubs and things like that about rehabilitation. So we're going to do that after the break. We're going to take a short break here, and then when we come back, we're going to continue our interview with Stephanie Mueller. Stay tuned, guys.
Leaders in Internet media and the American-made movement. You're listening to Internet Radio America.
Rowdy Bush Incorporated, premium bird food for your valuable pet. Formulated by renowned avian nutritionist Tom Rowdy Bush. Rowdy Bush bird foods are fed to pet birds worldwide when high-quality diet is a must. All of our food is 100% edible, contains no added sugar, animal byproducts, artificial colors, or flavors. Please visit www.roudYbush.com or call 1-800-326-1726 to place your order today. Need therapy but can't afford to sit on the couch of a therapist's office for answers? Tune in to Global Therapy, the most therapeutic show on the planet. Heal your heart and mind by listening to others and sharing your own issues. So many people in the world today suffer with emotional problems that can be solved without having to spend a fortune.
Begin to live a better life and see the world in a brighter light. Hosted by Michael Cox of the Global Nest Exotic Bird Sanctuary. Every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right after Parrots, People, and Pets on InternetRadioAmerica.com.
When you buy products that are made in America, you're helping to put more Americans back to work. It's up to each and every one of us to make the right choices. Please buy American-made products. KB Footwear Company manufactures a line of protective boots and shoes that helps keep the American worker safe and comfortable on their feet. Our footwear is made right here in America using the original nap patterns and tooling that American workers have come to trust since 1921. Please find us at www.kbfootwear.com. Thank you.
And go to 4daysforamerica.com. Pledge to buy your 4 American-made products. That's coming up this week. Get involved. Register for the event. Some great prizes. 4daysforamerica.com. Leaders in Internet media and the American-made movement. You're listening to Internet Radio America.
Hi guys, welcome back to the show. We have Stephanie Mueller, our special guest with us. We're talking about her handmade toys and her willingness to donate a percentage of her sales to the Military Macaw Conservation Project in Mexico. For everyone who's listening, you guys should really check this project out. They're really an amazing organization. They dedicate their lives to helping military macaws and conserving them. Again, their website is www.macawforever.org. And Stephanie, I want to talk about your speaking at bird clubs, but first I want to ask you to tell us a little bit about your artwork that you do.
Okay. Well, I've been painting and drawing for many, many years. You kind of laugh at me, though, but the only class I ever got good grades in high school was art and music. So that was always my strong point. And, a couple of years ago I thought, why not be able to put parrots in the art? And I didn't realize what a huge calling there was for it. I absolutely enjoy doing it. My favorite medium is watercolor, but I do a lot of other different things. A lot of people have me do custom portraits. My stuff is sort of abstract. It's detailed, but it's abstract. We also make shirts. We make wine glasses and all different types of custom parrot art. So if you want a parrot on something, we can do it, basically.
Right. I haven't seen some of that, T-shirts, wine glasses, but your website, again, is www.laborofloveparrottoys.com. And so you speak at bird clubs about trying to keep the relationship between a person and the parrot healthy enough to stop them from wanting to give the bird away. So what kind of advice do you give to someone that's having, aggression issues with the parrots?
Well, I basically have a few steps that I apply to every situation. And one of those things, no matter what the behavior is you need to make sure that all the parrots' needs are being met, because most of the time when you're doing behavioral rehab, 80% of the battle is fixing the element. And when I say element, I'm referring to, are we providing proper enrichment for this bird? Is the cage size appropriate? Is the room or the area that this bird is surrounded in, is it dark, or are you getting sunlight? Are they part of the family, or are they shut in a room with the door closed and not being dealt with?
Right.
There's a lot of factors that need to be addressed and taken care of before you even address behavior. So, the majority of birds that have even come to my home that were extremely aggressive, as soon as I fixed their situation and they started feeling better, they were able to reach out more and be a little more cooperative. Also, a vet check. When we don't feel good, we're not exactly the nicest of people. So that also applies with birds. I mean, I've seen birds that, were really nasty and grumpy, and I take them in and, they've got a bacterial infection or they've got a yeast infection and nobody ever treated it. So, I could imagine them not being very happy about that. And as soon as you have made them feel better and they associate that, it's amazing the loyalty that you get from your parrot. It's like, thank you, I feel better. So, and another thing is diet, always addressing appropriate diet. A lot of the time these birds, they're eating pizza, Cheetos, all feed, everything that we're really not designed to feed our birds. And often when I get them transferred over to like a pellet and chop and fresh food diet, I'm sure that it has a lot to do with it. So all of these things I discussed need to be addressed before you even get into the behavioral part of it.
Right.
Once you get past those things, I like to use like positive reinforcements and positive reinforcement training. And one of the ways I learned was from Good Bird Incubators with Barbara Heidenreich. Mm-hmm. They're one of my favorites. Anybody can order them. They're only like $20 a DVD. And it has totally changed the way I see my birds, because a lot of the time we create an inappropriate relationship with our parrots, and it does contribute to behavioral issues. I'm sure I heard you discussing a little bit earlier about breeding behaviors, and a lot of people don't realize that, petting to a parrot does not always mean love.
Right.
When we're stroking her, and believe me, before I even say this, I created a situation one time, and I learned from it. By stroking a parrot under the wings and around the back and the belly and massaging and stuff, you're basically sexually stimulating your bird.
Right.
And
we talked about that on the show actually last week, discouraging breeding behavior in parrots.
And the problem with that is the bird is like, hey, why are you not reciprocating? Why can't you climb in the nest box with me? This is making me angry. It can lead to feather picking. It can lead to aggression and screaming and, most of the undesired habits. And so when linking back to Barbara Heidenreich's methods of positive reinforcement and target training, it is teaching you how to do things with your bird, not to your bird, if that makes sense. Yes. A lot of people have gotten upset with me and said, well, what's the point in having a bird if you can't touch it? And they get, really upset. It's not that you can't touch your bird, okay? It's touching your bird appropriately. It's like we wouldn't go up to a dog and touch their private areas, right. So let's not do this to our birds. Right. We have to remember that these are wild animals, and they have not been domesticated just because they were born into a household. You can't take the wild out of the bird. Their erogenous zones will always be their erogenous zones. Mm-hmm. So for the most part, I try to teach people about appropriate handling. And when you're doing things with your bird that are providing enrichment, you get this amazing relationship that you never would have expected. I have a whole new respect for these animals by, you don't have to have your bird doing tricks and all this other stuff, but just having that positive reinforcement relationship. You get to know each bird, because some birds, they're food motivated as a positive reinforcement. And then, like my Milligold, who was absolutely insane. If you try to stick food in his face, he's going to bite your hand. His motivation was actually me. He loved me and wanted to be with me. But, so I rewarded his good behavior with me.
Right. These are some really good points that you're bringing up, Stephanie. And we really want to thank you for joining the show. Hopefully we can have you on the show in the future and bring up some more questions that I have for you. But thank you.
Absolutely.
All right, everybody. That was Stephanie Mueller. We're going to have our next guest on the show, Cheryl Lang. She's a canine specialist. Cheryl, are you here?
I am.
Hi, Cheryl.
Hello, Mandee.
Hi. Sorry about last week. We didn't have you on as long as we wanted to.
No worries. There are always other days.
Right. We were talking last week about discouraging breeding behavior in parrots. I know sometimes there are health issues that can occur if people allow their parrots to think of them as their mate, like excessive egg laying and stuff like that. But obviously, dogs don't lay eggs, so mineral deficiency isn't an issue. But are there any reasons to discourage breeding behavior in pet dogs?
Oh, boy. Some people, breeding behavior is, boy, I don't even know where to go with this one. If you spay and neuter your pets, then you eliminate the hormones that cause the behaviors. The dogs will wander, the girls will wander, because they're hardwired to reproduce. That's what they want to do, and that's what they think they should be doing, and that's the only reason that they do it. That being said, I will say that you will often see dogs mounting each other, and that's not breeding behavior. That is dominance issues. That's a dog saying, I'm in charge, I'm on top.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of people think, oh, they're trying to breed. No, they're not. They're dominating each other. They're trying to be in charge. And as far as breeding itself goes, I think that was kind of more where we were heading the last time. In fact, I just was having a discussion with my granddaughter about this, about how people don't spay and neuter their cats and their dogs, and they just let them breed randomly whenever they want to, regardless of quality or, mixed breed cats, mixed breed dogs, and they just let them loose to breed, and it's really very frustrating. And then the only reason that they do it is because, we can sell kittens for $10, we can sell puppies for $100,
right?
And, but they're not, they'll sell anything to anybody who comes by with money. They don't make sure that puppies or kittens are sold with spay-neuter contracts or right of first refusal. Most responsible breeders, and I don't care whether it's cat or dog or horse, will insist on a right of first refusal in their contract. They insist that the animal be spayed and neutered. Cats can be neutered as early as 6 weeks, safely, with no long-term ramifications. This was started with dogs many years ago, and I kind of wanted to see what the end result of it was, and it turned out that it's not a very good thing, and dogs should not be spayed or neutered at such an early age, definitely not by 8 weeks. It's great to cut down on the population, and it's great for people who never get around to it, but they found that their growth plates don't close, and it's not as beneficial for dogs to be neutered, spayed and neutered that early.
So we get questions sometimes. I know you're saying it's a dominance thing. So do you think it's okay to allow your dog to, mate with certain pieces of furniture, their pet bed, or whatever they're doing? Do you think it's okay if it's a dominance thing, or do you think that they should discourage that kind of dominant behavior?
I discourage it, and I especially if a dog comes up to me or one of the kids and does it, and kids don't often know. Kids think they're playing. They don't recognize it. But I discourage it only because it's not a necessary behavior. It's often a dog that doesn't have a lot of confidence will do stuff like that. And I'm the whole bed thing and furniture thing is beyond me.
Cheryl, I think we've got a caller on the line. They might have a question for you. Are you there, caller?
Yes.
Hi, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you.
Do you have a question for Cheryl?
I do. I have a question. My question is, I've heard that the dried duck and dried chicken that you can get at all the stores is junk food for dogs, and that was my question.
I won't use it. There are huge issues with anything that comes over from China, and most of that stuff is produced in China, and even the stuff they send over for people is loaded with toxic stuff. We just don't want to be putting it into our bodies either. There have been deaths as a result of it.
What about American-made stuff?
One of the things that I have an issue with is that there's usually a lot of preservatives and sugar and additives and stuff like that.
Okay.
And if you wouldn't eat it yourself, don't feed it to your dog. And I always had a rule with my kids, if you can't pronounce it, you shouldn't eat it. And
That's cool. Yeah.
I think it's a really good rule of thumb. And I think, especially when they started coming out with all those snack Lunchables and things like that, and the kids like, oh, can't we have this for lunch? Can't we have this for lunch? And I said, sure, turn it over and read me the ingredients. and they can't do it. And I said, if you can't say it, you don't want it in your body. So watch your treats as well as your food, because you don't want to be giving anything with preservatives or artificial colors or artificial flavors. Now, I will tell you what we use here. We give our dogs carrots. We give them bananas. We give them apples. They love. Our dog last night was eating bok choy. We offer them everything, and I always have. And my favorite husband was a little surprised when he thought I loved carrots. It's kind of a funny family story now. And when we first started seeing each other, he was cooking carrots all the time. And I said, I really don't love carrots. And he said, you don't? You always have these big, giant 5-pound bags of them, so I thought you loved them. I said, no, they're for the dogs and the horses.
Oh.
So, Cheryl, what would you recommend as the best kind of food to feed your dogs? I mean, as far as dog food goes.
I don't have a best kind.
Okay.
I wouldn't get caught up into that. What I will say is try to stay away from corn, wheat, and soy, high GMO foods. GMOs are not good for people. They're not good for animals, and I try to stay away from anything that I know that has it in there, and that would be corn and soy right there. So look for food that is at least corn, wheat, or soy-free. Grain-free is nice, but it's hard to find it because you'll find barley buried in there, and, barley's a grain. And you don't have to break the bank to feed your dog well. As long as you're thinking about staying away from corn, wheat, and soy, you'll be pretty good.
Okay.
Another thing that we do is we take dog food and put it in our cookie jar. So the dogs think they're getting treats. Yeah, right. And don't laugh, because one of my colleagues one time, I had run out of cookies, and she had just come in from outside, and I said, we're out of cookies, and I gave her, this was many, many years ago, so I said, you can just have one of these, and I reached into the dog food bucket, which was in the closet, to give her cookies, and she looked at me like I had lost my mind. Because she was supposed to be getting a cookie, not a piece of dog food. So I filled up the dog food bowl with them, and I've done that ever since. And as long as it comes out of the cookie jar, they think it's just a swell treat.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, well, my dog will eat green beans, but I never even thought about, trying some of the stuff you were talking about.
Oh, yeah, green beans is great, especially if you have a dog that's overweight. Yes. Because green beans is great fiber, and it's great filler. And as much as I don't love canned food, there's nothing wrong with throwing a can of beans into your dog's food if you've got him on a pretty strict diet.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, caller, for calling in. We're going to take a short break. If you have any additional questions, caller, you can stay on the line. We're going to continue our interview with Cheryl Lang after these messages. Stay tuned, you guys.
Leaders in Internet media and the American-made movement. You're listening to Internet Radio America.
Can't seem to find the right size wrench? Are you tired of searching for the right tool? Introducing the Loggerhead Bionic Wrench. It's 14 wrenches in one. Any size, just squeeze and turn. The patented design produces a powerful mechanical advantage. Pliers and adjustable wrenches can strip the corners, but that won't stop the Bionic because it grips on all 6 sides. Simply squeeze and turn. American made and a proven winner. No more guessing. Easy to use. Adjusts like a pliers. The Bionic wrench is 14 wrenches in one. Everyone needs one. At home or on the road. With the patented gripping power, the Bionic grips them all. It's a gripping experience. Thousands of uses for the Bionic wrench. Makes a great gift for everyone on your holiday list. 100% American made. Lifetime guarantee.
This portion of the broadcast is brought to you by Pointer Brand. Pointer Brand jeans, made in America, 100 years in business. Go to pointerbrand.com.
Rowdy Bush Incorporated, premium bird food for your valuable pet. Formulated by renowned avian nutritionist Tom Rowdy Bush. Rowdy Bush bird foods are fed to pet birds worldwide when high-quality diet is a must. All of our food is 100% edible, contains no added sugar, animal byproducts, artificial colors, or flavors. Please visit www.roudYbush.com or call 1-800-326-1726 to place your order today. Need therapy but can't afford to sit on the couch of a therapist's office for answers? Tune in to Global Therapy, the most therapeutic show on the planet. Heal your heart and mind by listening to others and sharing your own issues. So many people in the world today suffer with emotional problems that can be solved without having to spend a fortune.
Begin to live a better life and see the world in a brighter light. Hosted by Michael Cox of the Global Nest Exotic Bird Sanctuary, every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, right after Parrots, People, and Pets on InternetRadioAmerica.com.
Welcome back to the show, Parrots, People, and Pets. We have Cheryl Lang on the line. She's a canine specialist. Thank you for joining us, Cheryl.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thanks for having me.
I had a behavioral question, actually, from my own aunt, and I kind of messaged you about it on Facebook, but I thought I'd ask you again over the phone because I figured that people that had fairly young puppies just like her probably had the same kind of problem. So here's her question. She's got an Australian Shepherd who's about 5 months old, and he comes at her and bites at her arms and her clothes, usually in the evenings. He's even done it on their walks together, and one trainer said that it's showing dominance and to hold him down. Another trainer says it's to get her attention and to try to distract him, which she says does not work. She said then to give him a timeout. The trainer recommended that. So what do you think she should do?
Well, I don't think dogs understand timeout.
Right.
I really don't get that one. It's not something that I would do. Ignoring them always works. One of the things that I think is really important for people who have any dog, puppy, or adult, is to recognize that any time you touch your dog, you're rewarding it because your dog wants you to touch him. So if your dog is biting at you and you push him away with your hands, you've just rewarded him. If your dog is worried about something and you pet him, you've rewarded him for that worry. Just be very careful about things like that. As far as the biting goes, yeah, he's a puppy. He's teething. He's interested in all sorts of things. And he's going to be experimenting. The best thing that she can do is withdraw. If her arms are hanging and he's grabbing at her arms, pull her arms up. I used to do a lot of stuff in the schools with preschool and kindergarten kids to teach them how to be safe with a dog. And I would tell them to be a tree. And that is simply just pull your arms in and make yourself one solid thing, like a tree trunk. And then the dog doesn't have anything to play with and gets bored and goes away.
Yeah. I like your statement that ignoring them always works because just like with parrots that are screaming and screaming, as soon as you go over to their cage to see what they're screaming about or to give them attention, it just encourages that behavior, whether you're giving them positive reinforcement or negative comments. They don't care. As long as they're getting attention from it, they're going to keep doing it.
Right, and they don't recognize that, you know, you're coming over there to tell them to be quiet. They just know that you've come over there because they've been screaming.
Exactly.
And so, yes, absolutely, withdrawing the behavior is the best thing, the situation that causes the behavior, I guess is the best way to put it. Right. So if you're flapping your hands, if your puppy's biting your fingers and you're flapping your fingers at it saying, don't bite me, don't bite me, don't bite me, you're saying, come play with me, come play with me.
So do you think
the dog... Go ahead.
Right. Oh, sorry. If you think if your dog is like biting at your fingers or your clothes, as soon as he starts doing that, would you recommend to just walk away and ignore the dog?
If I was sitting in a chair and my hand was hanging down and the dog was doing that, I usually say, like we would with the parrots. And I would take my hand and put it in my lap or put my elbows on the table or something. So the dog can't get my hands. I let him know I'm unhappy by saying, and I've taken away the thing that's exciting him.
Right.
Conversely, if you're walking and you have a puppy that's grabbing at your legs, the same thing. Make your noise of displeasure, whatever it is. I try to avoid no for the same reason we don't use it with parrots or kids. It becomes ineffective almost immediately. But I do use the word and I will shriek. Puppies will yelp if they bite each other too hard. The mother will yelp. That's why it's important that puppies not be taken away from their mothers too young, because they learn bite inhibition from their litter mates. They learn respect from their mothers. All of these things. So making noises to them that's the speech they understand. They understand sharp, quick noises and quick responses, and then be done with it. We call it a 3-second nutty. You can, with a horse, especially if a horse does something wrong, react quickly, immediately, and be done with it. And it's true with any animal, and I'm not saying do something horrible. I'm just saying, if you're going to say quit or, something like that, make it fast, make it immediate. Timing is 99.9% of training. Consistency is the other part of it. Right. But if you don't have the timing right, you can be as consistent as you want, and you're still not going to get the desired behavior.
Okay, that's really interesting. And when I sent you the message, I believe you were saying that you absolutely do not think it's ever okay to hold a dog down to show that what it's doing is wrong.
Yes, I've seen so many people do it. They call it rolling a dog, and they'll grab them by the scruff of the neck and they'll flip them down. And I always wonder, what's your goal? What are you trying to teach the dog? You're not teaching him anything at that point. You've lost your teaching moment. All you're doing now is making the dog afraid of you because you've put it in a totally submissive position and he doesn't know why. Yeah. And that creates a fear issue. That being said, I have picked up dogs by the scruff of the neck and shaken them just like a mother dog would do for an insolent puppy.
Right, that's what my mom used to do to her puppies that were...
Right, I've done it with adult dogs that were out of line. But there are other issues, and that's something that I wouldn't recommend most people do because they don't have the physical strength to get it right. And I don't anymore. I can't, and I've had to do it only a few times for very unacceptable behavior. A fight, for example, an unfair fight, or a fight for no reason, stuff like that. But no, I don't think rolling is ever an acceptable thing to do because if you're doing that, first of all, like I said, you've missed the teaching moment, but you have to think, why am I doing this? What do I want? What is my result? What is my desired result here? What's the behavior I want to change? And so by taking this dog, and let's go back to the one that's biting. So you've got a dog that's probably playfully nipping at fingers and toes, feet while he's walking. So you stop your walking, you grab the dog by the scruff of the neck, and you roll him over. All you've taught him is that I can go for a walk with you, but I can deck you anytime I want. Right? Right. It has absolutely nothing to do with the behavior. And so go ahead. Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, if he's biting at your feet or at your fingers, then put your hands in your pocket. Put your fingers, hold your leash up by your chest. Take away the motivator. The motivator is the action of your fingers and your feet. If it's and having had collies for most of my life, I recognize that hurting behavior. And sometimes we have puppies that do that, and I tell the kids, you need to stop and stand still. When you're not moving, they'll get bored, and they'll look at you like, why did you stop this game? Because to them, it's a game. Right. And we were talking about how to discourage breeding behavior and stuff like that, and I wanted to ask you, what do you think, what's the best way a dog owner should stop this kind of behavior, when they're like mating with, furniture or their bed by distracting them for a while, or should they take that thing away from them entirely? Well, they're not, first of all, it's not mating behavior. All right, the dominant behavior. Yep, so we want to take that away because that's a misnomer and kind of a misleading thing because it's not anything to do with mating. If it were, well, it depends on the dog. I know a lot of people don't like squirt bottles, but I call them messages from God, and I'm God in my house. I like surprise attacks. Like, here's an example when I have puppies in an X pen for, a litter of puppies, and they start barking. I will tell them quiet. And if they don't quiet right away, I teach them what the word means. I have a supply of weapons. And it's usually a bucket full of things like jars with coins in it. Sometimes it's a piece of, like could be screws or something. Anything that makes a noise. Sometimes it's just toys.
Right.
And what I do is I say quiet, and I throw it immediately at the pen, never at a dog. And so from across the room, God has spoken. And they immediately stop because something has happened there. And they stop the barking, and I say, what good puppies! And I play with them and give them toys. My dogs learn quiet from a very, very, very early age because of that. And I have to make sure that everybody understands I'm not throwing anything at dogs. My pen is 4 feet high, and I'm aiming for the side. It's the noise. It's the surprise that I'm aiming for.
Right.
Those kinds of things are very beneficial with dogs because they'll stop to see what it is, and there's your chance to say, good, you're quiet, perfect, what I'm looking for. So I would do that. The same kind of a thing, I'd have an arsenal of stuffed animals or tennis balls or something and aim close by. If it's something soft and it hits them, they're going to say, what was that? And you're not trying to hurt them. You're not trying to correct them by that. You're trying to get their attention and change it. Squirt bottle works well on jet stream. And the same thing. But if there's an object of affection that's really over the top, then yes, I would remove that.
Right. Do you think, can a dog develop an aggressive relationship with you if they're not allowed to, show their dominance to something? Will they end up trying to show their dominance to something else, like their owner?
If a dog is showing dominance to his owner, that has nothing to do with him trying to breed and everything to do with the relationship, and that needs work, and that's a whole other issue that I'd be happy to deal with.
Okay.
With you. Because if your dog is showing dominance to you, then aggression is often following right behind. Because if he's trying to be dominant and you're not listening, the only way he has to respond is by being aggressive.
Right.
Okay, and I'm not talking about things like mounting. Those are usually just dogs who haven't learned their place and they're just kind of... But an aggression issue is huge. Like, for example, I know loads of people that have dogs that sleep on their beds. They'll go to get the dog off the bed, and the dog will growl at them.
Is that separation and anxiety? Can that be part of it sometimes?
If they're on the bed and they growl, absolutely not.
Well, because they don't want the person to leave.
Absolutely not. That's aggression. Okay. Separation anxiety is another issue altogether and is presented by a dog that panics when its owner leaves, can't stand still when its owner leaves, and that's...
Okay, so it never shows aggression when it's anxious, in other words.
Typically not. I would never say never. That's the only time I say never. Never say never. Because kids and dogs and animals all keep us humble. We know that. But if your dog is on your bed, for example, and you try to take him off and he growls at you, that's your dog saying, I'm in my bed, back off.
Yeah.
The dog has put himself in a dominant position because he's telling you he's in charge. And the first thing that I would do with a dog like that is not allow it on my bed, period. At all, ever. When Gordon and I first got involved, he had a Great Dane that was incredibly aggressive. And she was aggressive to anybody. She didn't care how big, how small, whether they were furred or feathered or footed. She didn't care. We had a few discussions, and it was 2 years before we brought her back up to his parents' house, and they said, wow, she's like a different dog. And it was just because I took everything away from her. We call it the no free pats rule. So if you're dealing with an aggressive animal, you have to make sure that you ask for anything. So you don't just give it random treats or random pats. If the dog comes up to you and pokes you and wants to be petted, don't pay attention to it. Tell it to sit. When it sits, you can respond with a pat. When you have a treat, you make it sit. You don't do anything without asking it to do something first.
Exactly.
And then you need to, same with the parrots, and then you need to take away, well, I wouldn't say and then, I would start with, when Betty first came into my house, I said, okay, here are the rules. She can go from the back door, through the kitchen, down the hall, and into the office. She's not allowed in any other room in the house. She's specifically not allowed in the bedroom, and she's not allowed in my living space.
Right.
And that was the first thing that we established. You know, it's like with the parrots. You don't let them on the floor. That's the way you handle that sort of a situation.
Right.
But with the dogs, that's what you do. You take them away from anything that gives them any idea at all that they're on the same level that you are and that they can be in charge.
Right. Cheryl, I want to thank you for coming on the show. You brought up a lot of really great points, and I got to ask you all the questions I wanted to ask you that I didn't get to next week. Hopefully we'll be able to have you on the show in the future for more doggy questions.
Anytime.
All right, thank you.
Keep up the good work, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
That
Bye-bye.
No problem. That was Cheryl Lang, everyone. I just want to talk a little bit about what we're going to have on the show next week. We're going to be talking about separation anxiety in your pets, whether it's dogs, parrots, anything like that. And we're going to have a special guest, Bobby Courtwright, on talking about a visit to Feathered Friends Forever by Sri Swamiji, which is actually his abbreviated name. He's a guru in India who works with the calming of birds. And he's going to be visiting the sanctuary, and so we're going to talk with him a little bit a couple days before he actually visits the sanctuary, and then we're going to talk to him the week after for a follow-up to see how it went. And we also want you to stay tuned for next show, Global Therapy. But before we go, we only got a little while longer, but it's 4th of July is going to be here really soon, and I wanted to talk about fireworks and parrots. And as a lot of people know, pets can get really scared by the sound of firecrackers going off. And I was reading about a German behavioralist who states that it's not really the noise that is normally the problem, it's the sudden appearance of an unknown noise. So I was reading that it's a good idea to try and play a CD at a somewhat low volume before the firecrackers start going off and well into the night, because if firecrackers are going to be going off, your birds aren't going to be getting any sleep anyway, so it's better to have some continuous light noise in the background, maybe the whole night if the birds aren't going to get a good night rest anyways. So that way, when you have the CD going on in the background, they're less likely to be startled by a sudden loud noise. And I thought that was a really good idea. If you have some calming, we use rainforest music here. We use our own music that Michael made, bird therapy CD that they listen to, and that calms them down almost immediately. So that's what we're going to be playing on July 4th especially. I want to thank everybody for listening into the show. We thank you to both of our guests for being on. You guys both did great, and you answered a lot of really important questions. We hope you'll tune in next week for our special guest, Bobby Courtwright. And we hope that you can tune in right after this show for Global Therapy. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.